set,
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
Welcome back to the Dynasty Nerds Podcast. I am your host, Garrett Price. You already knew Rich Dotson was on vacation, but Matt O'Hara is a little under the weather today, and so he's not going to be joining us either. So we've brought the man back. If you listen to yesterday's podcast, you're like, oh, that name sounds familiar. It's Mr. Andrew Maye. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Hopefully I can sub in well today and maybe not look like Jake Browning when he subs in for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, we want more of a, Tom Brady stepping in for Drew Bledsoe. That's what we're hoping for here. No pressure, pressure, but
crazy pressure right there, but
of all time. All right.
We'll do our best. Let's do it.
All right. I love it. Super Bowl time, baby. All right. So today we've got 3 different segments that we're going to go through. First, we're going to be talking about passing the torch. Are these young guns, these young players that we've been looking at, have they surpassed some of those established veterans that have been in that same area range for a while now? Are they now being superseded by the next generation? Then we're going to be having a discussion around Marvin Harrison Jr. What the heck do we do with this guy? Is it time to buy? Is it time to sell? Is it just hold and cross your fingers while you pee down your leg a little bit? We're going to talk about that and figure it out. And last but not least, we'll talk about the tight end position. And is there a little bit of a crisis right now at the tight end spot? So we're going to be getting into all that. But let's go ahead and get into our first segment. So, Andrew, I'm going to give you a guy, and I'm going to say, has he surpassed this player? And we're going to be looking at this from a dynasty perspective, so not a redraft perspective. We're going to be looking at this from, like, our dynasty ranks. If we had to do a startup today, would we be willing to take the younger player over the established vet, the guy that we know what we're getting from year after year? So let's start here at the quarterback position. Drake Maye and Patrick Mahomes. Has Drake Maye passed Patrick Mahomes as far as dynasty fantasy football value? Obviously, we know Patrick Mahomes, probably the best real life quarterback in the NFL. But for dynasty purposes, has Drake Maye passed Patrick Mahomes for you?
I think you have to kind of start leaning that way at this point in time. I mean, I remember, 2-3 weeks ago, Garrett, where you and I were kind of doing a video where we were talking about what could this landscape look like a couple of years from now in 2027. Yeah. And you and I both had a guy in Drake Maye as like a top 5, top 7-ish type of dynasty asset by that point in time. You look at the rushing upside that he has. Obviously this year in New England, it's not the best offense. He's still leaning on guys like Hunter Henry and, recovering Stephon Diggs from an ACL. And there's still guys that need to break out like Trevion Henderson. But I think at this point in time, you look at the age difference between the two guys. Mahomes going into his next year, he'll be 31 in, dynasty. And even though that's not a nail in the coffin for anybody at the quarterback position, you can play much, much later than that. And I think we expect Patrick Mahomes to play much later than that. It's hard for your dynasty value to increase after that kind of age threshold. So for me, yes, Mahomes may still outscore Drake Maye for another year or 2, or maybe it's even 3 if it takes a while for Drake Maye. And if it takes 3 years for Drake Maye to kind of evolve, then maybe we're not even playing the same game with Drake Maye anymore. But I think at this point in time, if I have to pick today on the clock between the two guys, I'm going to take the upside of Drake Maye.
And if people have been listening for a while, this is not going to be a huge surprise. I have been arguably one of the biggest Drake Maye supporters. I've been in his corner. I've been in his camp, saying, look what this guy has done with very, very little. And he has continued to evolve both in the passing game and then the rushing game. He's been very, very consistent overall this season, currently quarterback 4 in fantasy football. Now, Patrick Mahomes had a big game in week 4, and so he's actually quarterback 3. So they are neck and neck right now. One averaging 22.2 points, one averaging 21.4 points, only a point separating them. But both these guys, obviously very talented quarterbacks. You feel good with either one of these guys, but you're right. At some point, you have to start saying, is the value of the youth and the rushing upside enough to kind of make that flip. And Pat Mahomes is running a little bit more this year than we've seen in the past, but I don't think that's something that continues. I think once Worthy's back and established again, which he was back this week, and he'll get, kind of back into this offense. Rashee Rice is going to be back week 7. So I think he's not going to have to do that as much anymore. So right now for me, I have officially made the switch. The 23-year-old Drake Maye I have as quarterback 5, and I have Patrick Mahomes as quarterback 7 in my dynasty ranking. So I have officially made the switch of these two guys. And look, if you're out there and you're saying, I'm a contender, I want to make sure that the bottom doesn't fall out, I'm going to stick with Pat Mahomes. Cool. Like, I have no issue with that. And honestly, any of these players we're going to talk about, they are very, very close. That's why we're talking, like, have they made the jump? Have they made the switch? But I think specifically when thinking about it from a startup angle, you typically are looking to maximize your time frame. Yes, I like to play in 2 to 3 year windows, so a 30-year quarterback isn't going to terrify me. But at the same time, if I have them that close, what's the tiebreaker? And the age is going to be the tiebreaker for me, getting 7 years younger. Any more thoughts on that one, Andrew?
No, I just kind of want to piggyback a little bit off of like you saying, obviously if you're in a contending window, take the guys that you think are going to score you the most points. But you asked me in a startup, am I picking the 2 guys? And I'm not necessarily in a startup under the understanding of if I'm a contender yet or if I'm a rebuilder yet. I think for the most part, you draft best player available, and how that starts to pan out for you over the first couple of weeks is kind of how you then operate the team. Or obviously you can go into it with like a 1-year punt type of strategy, but that beforehand. It's not very often in a startup I'm like, yeah, give me all the old guys that are going to score points right now, and that's the only players I want. So that's not, typically my strategy right in the startup.
Absolutely. And he's made the jump. I updated my rankings today. He has made the jump into my first round. So he's in my top 12 guys in a super flex league, which is, it's always scary to put the younger guys in there, but he's done nothing to dissuade me from feeling like he could be one of those players. And this is an offense that's just going to get better. It's not an offense that is like, well, once this guy retires and, if this guy, blah, blah, blah. No, this is an offense where like he started at the bottom, like the Drake song. We started from the bottom. Now we're here, but eventually we do think he's going to get here, and that's where I'm kind of at with Drake Maye. Did he crap? Did he crack your top 12 yet?
I hope he didn't crap on my top 12. But no, I don't think he's in my top 12 yet. Not right now.
Okay. All right. Let's
get
to the next one here.
Isn't in my top 12 either, by the way. Mahomes isn't either.
Okay. So he could still pass him, and neither one would be inside the top 12. Mahomes is not in my top 12 either, by the way, but technically just missing it at 13. All right. So let's move on to the running back position. And we have a rookie running back here that, look, despite we touched on him a little bit on yesterday's show, but despite the slow start with the offseason and, obviously not the ideal news for Quinshon Judkins, but as soon as he got an opportunity, he has absolutely taken off. Every single game so far, he's had double-digit points, 21.5 in his most recent game, averaging 16 points a game. Quinshon Judkins, for somebody that's not I think he's a capable receiver. I don't think he's a dynamic receiver, but a capable receiver, but not somebody that we would expect to win a ton there. He's showing us a lot in scoring a lot of points. But if we are in a dynasty startup today, has he surpassed a guy like James Cook?
Yeah, I think I'm still leaning with the veteran here in James Cook. And I think really it's process and theory for me is when I'm drafting running backs, those windows I'm looking at are very short. So the age isn't as important to me with the running backs. Now, obviously, if I'm drafting a 30-year-old running back, it's a little bit different. James Cook is 26 years old. A lot of people talked about regression with James Cook, and it hasn't showed up. He said regression and started scoring a bunch of touchdowns again anyways. And so I think when I look at these two guys, no knocks on Quinshon Judkins as a player. Absolutely fantastic player. I think he's going to be a good dynasty running back for a long time. James Cook is in one of the league's best offenses. They're feeding him the football. They're scoring in bunches. And I still think I can get a 2 to 3 year window out of him anyways, where he's still going to be productive for me, whether I'm a team that's young or a team that's contending. So, he's really just shortest way to put it is James Cook has looked like one of the best running backs in football, bar none, so far this year. And I don't want to get too overreactive to it, but maybe if it was his first time doing it, we could be. This isn't his first time doing it, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really wanted to go with Quinshon here, really, really badly. But I did end up going with James Cook as well here. If I was in a startup right now, it would be really close because you're right. You mentioned it on the last guy. I don't necessarily know that I'm a contender. So that's where this would make it really tough. But if I even think I have a shot, I need a cornerstone running back that I have no worries about. And at this point, James Cook's giving me nothing to worry about. He's a good player in a good offense that has kind of just shown that regression is silly. You know, the fact that we even brought it up, he's making us look stupid. I do have both of these guys top 12. Right now, I have James Cook as Dynasty running back 9. And I have Quinshon Judkins as Dynasty running back 11. So I do currently have 4 rookie running backs inside of my top 12. So definitely this class being as studly as it was coming in, I'm embracing that. And I have 4 guys inside there. Quinshon, obviously you just mentioned he's not ahead of James Cook yet. He hasn't quite surpassed him. But is he in your top 12?
I have Quinshon Judkins as my running back 10 currently. So
nice.
I do have him in the top 12.
Higher than me.
Yeah, I have him a spot higher. I have James Cook a spot higher than you as well. You said 9 for you?
9 and 11, yep.
Yep, I got James Cook as running back 8.
Okay, so shows right there. We're kind of in the same boat with both of these guys. Quinshon's creeping up. Now, if we were to redo this show in 3 weeks, and if Quinshon's still averaging 16, 17 points a game, I might be willing to make that flip because this is the one position where age is going to persuade me the most. And James Cook is 26 years old. He just turned 26. Quinshon Judkins, not even 22 yet. He'll be turning 22 next month. So 4 full years is a long time. So I feel like even as I say that, I'm like starting to talk myself into Quinshon. But James Cook has been so good, so dynamic that I'm going to stay pat. I'm going to stay disciplined. But I am tempted.
I just think, over the last couple of years, we've seen these guys at the running back position. And I know we're talking about like outliers of CMC and Saquon and Derrick Henry, but it's like these guys are playing 28, 29, 30 and still being productive RB1s for us.
Yeah.
James Cook is a running back that in college didn't get a lot of wear and tear on the body. His first year of his NFL career didn't get a lot of wear and tear on the body. So, his age is up there. But if you want to look at age for the running back position, which I do have a theory here that when we're looking at running backs, we should probably be looking at wear and tear more so than the actual physical, age next to the date of birth. I think there's an argument that James Cook can have a longer shelf life as well because of the lack of wear and tear early on in college and in his early career.
Look, there's a restlessness in my spirit right now. Quinshon over James Cook. Screw it. I don't care what I said. I believe in Quinshon Judkins. Look, he's so freaking good. And I don't think he slowed down.
Gave me too much time to think about it, dude.
It gave me too much time to think. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna go Quinshon regardless.
Well, now you got to move him up 2 spots, so you got to move 2 people down your rankings.
Well, only one. There's only one guy in between. I got to move him and then Bucky Irving.
You better get to work.
he's hurt. All right, let's move to this one. Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo has been nothing short of a revelation so far this season. Bringing back that old school mentality, the aura, the vibes, whatever you want to say, are there for Cam Skattebo. Would you go with Cam Skattebo or Kenneth Walker? And you know what, Andrew, for me, I am going to go the veteran this time, which I feel like this is probably a surprise to people because I love Cam. I've been a big Cam guy. But at this point, there's still a lot that could go wrong. And I think that's the hardest part, where I trust Quinshon fairly implicitly. He has the draft capital as the early second round guy. He's doing it. And I this is an offense that's set up for him to be successful. It's not a great passing attack, but they run the ball well. They love to run the 12 personnel, things like that. New York, the vibes are good. The things are trending in the right direction with Jackson Dart and all of that. But there's still just a lot that could go wrong. Tyrone Tracy could come back and still eat in a little bit. And, whereas Quinshon has just gotten all the work to himself. And so I think that's the difference between these two rookie running backs. And comparing him to Kenneth Walker is tough, because I'm not the biggest Kenneth Walker guy. But when healthy, he's absolutely dynamic. Now, he is one of those guys that either makes a highlight play or you go what were you doing? Because sometimes it's like he forgets how to read the defense, and he just overshoots the gap, and just I don't know. He's a frustrating player. But then the very next play, he makes a guy miss. He finds the open hole, spin move, 28-yard touchdown type thing. And I think the thing that made me still go with Kenneth Walker on this one is the age gap isn't as crazy here. Kenneth Walker is about to turn 25 next month. Cam Skattebo is 23 and a half. So we don't even have a full 2 years separating these two guys. I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker, but it's really close between these two.
Yeah, I think this is one where I was looking at it and I was kind of maybe struggling a little bit more than the first two, but I'm with you. I'm still going Kenneth Walker, and it's not that I don't like Cam Skattebo. I kind of don't love either of the guys, if we're being totally honest. I haven't been the biggest Kenneth Walker guy either, and a lot of this offseason, I spent a lot of time where it seemed like a lot of people were pumping up Kenneth Walker and hyping Kenneth Walker. I spent a lot of the time on the opposite side of the fence saying, hey guys, let's pump the brakes and let's slow it down a little bit, because I don't love a lot of what we've seen so far. I'm still going to lean with him. I think if I have to pick the two, really the thing that's going to split my decision is I believe this Seattle offense is a better offense. And I do think that he's probably the more talented player, Kenneth Walker is, than Cam Skattebo. And so I'm going to go there. The reality is both of these guys could be in timeshares. You have Charbonnet being involved, and you could have Tyrone Tracy still being involved in the receiving game. So I'm not in love with either of these guys, but for the sake of saving time, I'm going to echo a lot of what you say, and I'm taking Kenneth Walker as well.
All right. It's a tough one, but got to make the decision. So far, we both went with the young gun on pick one. We were split after originally being unified on number two. I defected and went with Quinshon Judkins.
Well, we looked like we were going to be good to go, and you switched on me.
Dude, you know what? It was one of those where, I'm the bride and the groom's walking down the aisle and it's James
ran
Cook.
Away.
And I was just like, you know what? This isn't right. My heart's somewhere else. And, runaway bride. And then we went with the vet number 3 here. Let's go to let's move on to the wide receiver position here. Jaxon Smith-Njigba and CeeDee Lamb, which originally I was like, I don't feel like I can do this one because JSN is, it's his third year. Is he really a young guy at this point? But I looked at it. He's the exact same age as Cam Skattebo. So he is still a very, very young player overall, 23 years, 7 months, literally exactly the same age as Cam. And CeeDee Lamb's 26. So there's almost a full 3 years difference between these players. So I was like, actually, that is a fairly significant gap. Now, it helps that CeeDee Lamb's injured right now, but where are you going? JSN or CeeDee Lamb?
They are very close, but I'm still going CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb is just still continuing to be in that elite conversation. And I think a lot of the times when people say Chase and Jefferson, the guy that gets left off the list that probably needs to be a little bit closer to them than people give him credit for is CeeDee Lamb. When I'm looking at the two offenses as well, Sam Darnold has been doing a lot this offseason to prove me wrong. I thought maybe he was, KOC pilled over there in Minnesota, but it seems like it's been working over here in Seattle as well. So by no means do I dislike JSN, and JSN to me is a top 7 dynasty wide receiver in my rankings. I just have CeeDee Lamb at 6. So I have to stick with him for now. This could change, let the season, get a couple more weeks into it and JSN keeps balling out. There could absolutely be a switch, but if I have to pick today, I'm still going Lamb over JSN. And maybe that's a cold take. Maybe it's not. Maybe you agree. What do you think?
I have them 6 and 7 as well, but I have JSN at 6 and I have CeeDee Lamb at 7. So I have made the switch. And look, JSN was somebody I was preaching all off season. When I looked at what he did last year, he was wide receiver 9 on the season last year overall. But I looked at what's happening with this team. DK Metcalf is gone. Tyler Lockett, despite not being as good as he once was still taking volume and targets. Both those guys gone. They bring in Cooper Kupp, fine player, but at the tail end of his career. And so where is the volume going to go? Yeah, I know that they got Torrey Horton and we're excited about him. And I genuinely do like that kid. I think he's a good player. But this is JSN's team. And watching him play, he is such a savvy player. He is just smart and knows how to win. He can win from the outside. He can win from the slot. It does not matter. The kid just wins. And the fact that he's still so young, not even 24 years old yet. And look, really the only thing holding him back, because the targets are absolutely there. The targets have been great. The only thing that's held him back in the past has been volume of touchdowns, which we know can be very fluky from year to year. But if he just gets slightly luckier than last year, I think he only had like 5 touchdowns last year, 6 touchdowns. It wasn't a lot. If we can see him get into that 8 or 9 range, I'm not even asking for double digits. I'm just asking for the 8-9 range. We're going to see him be a top 3 to 4 receiver in this game with that type of target volume. So I'm all in on JSN. I'm going to take the years on this one. And this is no slight to CeeDee Lamb. I'm with you. That offense, I love it. I've been talking about how many points I think they're going to score because of how bad that defense is and adding George Pickens and all that. Like, I love the offense. I love the ecosystem. I like Dak Prescott. All of that is great. But in your draft, you have to make these tough decisions. And if I have 2 guys neck and neck where I think there is a path for both of these guys to be a top 3 wide receiver in Dynasty Fantasy Football, if one is 3 years younger, I'm going to take that guy. So that was what broke the tie for me, is I'm able to just get a little bit younger and I leave that window open a little bit longer.
See, now you got me feeling a little bit like the runaway bride, because I'm like, you're right. Like, I hear you, because if I'm going to make the switch, sometime down the road, I might as well do it today.
Dude, no time better than the present.
I might just do it. I don't know. They're so close, man.
They are. And honestly, CeeDee Lamb could put up a 40-point game when he comes back, and it's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. He's a superstar. We all know it. What am I thinking? But for today, I'm going to live in the moment and take JSN. But, as the show goes on, maybe something starts percolating and you decide to come to the dark side. All right, let's go to the last one here. Tetairoa McMillan and Nico Collins, 2 guys that have a similar build, similar size. Both guys kind of the key cog in their ecosystem. But one guy is a rookie right now, only 22 and a half years old. And Nico Collins, 26 and a half. So we've got about a 4-year gap between these 2 guys. I know you're a big T-Mac guy, but is it enough to trump Nico Collins?
I'm really struggling with this, because I was one of the few that was lucky enough to kind of get in on the Nico Collins stuff before he was even really an option in this offense in general. And so I've had, the glory days of the breakout, and now you feel like you're physically like I have an emotional attachment to Nico Collins now because of it.
You bought Bitcoin at $100.
Yeah, and so now it's like I'm playing with house money. I don't care. I'll hold it to the moon because I care about Nico Collins now because I saw the breakout with my own two eyes. But you're right. I love Tetairoa McMillan as a player, as a prospect. And I do have some worries here of Nico Collins and CJ Stroud and this Houston Texans offense. So I think I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan, man. I'm going to move him there. You have a 4-year age gap. I think T-Mac is only going to get better. And yes, you may say, Andrew, CJ Stroud and the Texans, you're worried about that offense, but you're not worried about Bryce Young and the Panthers. Oh, trust me, I'm worried about them too. I'm worried about them too. But I do know for certain, at least what I've seen so far with my own two eyes, Tetairoa McMillan is seeing 10, 11, 12 targets a game in this offense. And he hasn't even really, seen the upside of the big games with the touchdowns and things like that can come his way. So I just think this is a player who had the insane draft capital that you want to see from a wide receiver, has the hands, has the physical tools, the athleticism, jumps, out of the gym, just to use a phrase from my basketball days. But
yeah,
I just think he's an insane player. And not that Nico Collins isn't, but we were talking about age gap between CD and JSN and it being 3 years. A 4-year gap with two players that I think are just as the same. And I don't think Nico Collins is the player that CeeDee Lamb is. So I'm just going to take Tetairoa McMillan here.
Man, this was probably the hardest one for me. Well, maybe not, because clearly Quinshon won me over. So maybe this is the second hardest one that I had to decide between, because both of these guys, you're right. Not necessarily in the best ecosystem. Both guys, similar build. They win in a similar way. Nico Collins, obviously, we've seen more of it. He's been in the league longer, but T-Mac has looked like that guy from day one. It's funny because I have it in my rankings. This is the only one where it's this way, but I might go against my rankings, which means I need to update them. I think I'm going to go T-Mac as well. It's just funny. I literally updated my rankings today.
Do it.
Which is so funny. Here's the thing. The one thing, because you made a lot of excellent points. Here's the one thing that we haven't touched on yet that I think is actually the thing that's convincing me, because at first I was really going to be steady and strong with Nico Collins. But as I think about it, his soft tissue injuries have been a real issue over the course of his career. And he's missed maybe not crazy amounts of time, but he's missed a good amount of time in multiple seasons now because of these soft tissue injuries. And so that's something that doesn't get better with age typically. That's something that tends to continue to crop up and be an issue. And so if I can just kind of hit the reset button on that, and I think I could get very similar, maybe a point less, but I can get very similar production from a guy like T-Mac, I think I'm going to do it. So I'm going to have to update my rankings again tomorrow to reflect this. But I think, and it's tough. I had Nico at 11. I had T-Mac at 13. So I think I'm going to have to just move Nico down, because I still have a Mecca ahead of T-Mac, which it's real close between those two guys. So I think I'm going to have to move Nico down to 13 outside of my top 12.
Yeah, and I think something we didn't touch on either, too, that probably needs to be a part of the equation is the Houston Texans drafted 2 rookie wide receivers this offseason that haven't really started developing yet. And there's a chance that these 2 guys, more reps in, the regular season and things like that, start getting a little bit more involved. And even if it takes 1 or 2 or whatever targets away from Nico, you kind of go from Nico, where he wasn't a target volume, PPR merchant type of guy in the first place, but he becomes real big play dependent which he's been so good at that over the last couple of years. It just makes me a little bit nervous for some volatility that might be coming Nico's way with poor, offensive play from the Texans in general, and then maybe some less targets coming his way as those guys develop.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Well, before we go to our next segment here, I want to remind you guys about FastDraft. We've partnered with them all off season. We're continuing to partner with them into this regular season, and they have some awesome in-season things they're doing. You can choose between games like the Quick Six Super Slam or the Flex Six Frenzy Tournament with guaranteed prize pools. First place takes 30%. That's a $300 profit on a single $5 entry. And look, Dynasty Nerds guys, you dominate here. Like your guys, your rookies. You're already ahead of the game on guys like Woody Marks and players like that. Rashard Smith, another one that's maybe slowly climbing up here. Keep an eye on him. But look, not only can you win some money and have a good time doing it over there on FastDraft, when we give you promo code NERDS, it will double your deposit. So that $100 turns into $200. But on top of that, we will give you a free year of everything we do here at Dynasty Nerds. That's a $70 value. Absolutely free. That's the GM tool, the film room, the extra podcast, the nerd score, everything that we have going on here at Dynasty Nerds, you get absolutely free. And if you're already a member, we're going to give you a $25 gift card to our merch store so you can grab yourself a t-shirt like the one I have on right here, the one Andrew will eventually get when we send it to him. Someday he'll officially be part of us.
One day you guys will actually care enough to get me one in my mailbox, but until then, I'll just keep wearing my own plain black t-shirts.
The good news is I passed off the responsibility on Jared, and now it's his problem to deal with. So I don't have to worry about it anymore.
The last prospect show we did, he was writing down notes to make sure he remembers to do it, and it's still not here, and it's been almost a week now.
I think I saw yesterday that in the orders, I saw a couple t-shirts ordered, so I bet that's yours. Maybe, probably not.
Well,
all right, we'll see. Anyway, head over to FastDraft. Head over to the FastDraft app there. Use the promo code NERDS and turn your expertise into cash. All right, let's move on to our next topic here. And this one is very generic. I don't have like a clever name or like a fun game we're gonna play or anything like that. It's just Marvin Harrison. What do we do with Marvin Harrison? Because the roller coaster of emotions that has been this guy since he came out of Ohio State, joined the Arizona Cardinals, has been nothing short of, I don't even have the right word to use to describe how, I don't know, cataclysmic. I don't know. That sounds a little too negative because there's been some bright spots as well. But like, it's been all over the place. It's been really hard to determine, is this guy a buy? Is this guy a sell? Is he just a hold? Like what are we doing? So you personally, Andrew, come at from a perspective of you have him or you don't have him. I want to hear both because I'm struggling personally with what I want to do with Marvin Harrison. Yeah,
it is so tough to give any advice on Marvin Harrison right now because it's like there's been enough on both sides of the fence where you feel good, with some of the flashes we've seen. If you did draft him, you think that there's hope for him to maybe enter that next tier of guys. But if you also drafted him, you've seen enough of the negative where you're a little bit nervous that maybe it's not there. I'll tell you what, when I look at Marvin Harrison at this point in time, I no longer see a player that I think can hit the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb type levels that I thought he could maybe do as a rookie. And I think this is a player potentially where if I do have him, and there are still people out there, because there are people out there still that do have the hope and belief that Marvin Harrison will be this, next top wide receiver of the NFL. I'm probably using the opportunity to find those people and move off of Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's not for anything crazy. I'm not moving Marvin for cheap. I'm moving Marvin to try and just get out of the volatility of Marvin Harrison. So, if I can throw, I think a late first on top of Marvin Harrison and go to an Amon-Ra, I think I'm trying to do it. If I can do the same thing to go to a JSN, I'm trying to do it. If people think, hey, I need to get points off my roster, you got to find the right trade partners, right? That's always going to be the same thing in any dynasty league you're in. You have to find the right trade partners. I want some points off of my roster. Take the 26-year-old Amon-Ra and give me the younger Marvin Harrison and whatever. So like, I think that's probably what I'm trying to do. On the opposite side, if he's not on my team, I'm checking the temperature and see how nervous are you, because I am willing to buy at a cheaper price. So I know that doesn't sound very helpful to a lot of people, because I am kind of playing both sides of the fence here, but understand that I'm trying to either sell to people that will be willing to pay me more than market based off of hope and potential and hopium, or I'm trying to buy off of people who are panicking. And maybe that just tells you he's a hold, really, in all things said. And, maybe he is just a hold. But I'm just trying to talk it out loud and kind of give you my thoughts on where he is. What do you think? Like, does that sound outlandish? Does that sound like it's not anything that's going to, help people? Or do you kind of feel the same way, where it's like, if I can sell the hope of Marvin, I'm willing to do it and get out. But if people are treating him like he's a bust in my league, I'm okay holding the bag and seeing what happens.
I 100% hear what you're talking about, because price tag is a big component to Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. But what gets me, what made me perk up a little bit when you were talking is I'm thinking of myself as somebody that I actually, even though I was very, very high on him, I do not have a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. shares. I kind of moved out of that spot. Built up, like I got a couple Bijans in some of those moves and things like that. So I don't have a lot of him, but I am still a believer in the talent. And he kind of reminded me of this guy a little bit as a prospect as well. The body size, the play stylistically. I think this guy maybe is a little bit better off the line and in and out, some of those kinds of things. But thinking of a Davante Adams, and Davante Adams did not have a great rookie season. It took him a little bit to get going. My biggest question with Marvin, though, that I don't have a question with a guy like Davante Adams, is how are things going mentally? And that's something we just don't know. Like, we just don't know where he's at. You could tell after that touchdown catch that there was like a little bit of a monkey off his back. Like, you could tell things were weighing on him. Are we going to get that confident and borderline cocky wide receiver again? Or is this a guy that's going to be playing with a little bit of timidity? And that's not what I want on my wide receiver. I want that angry, like I want that irrational arrogance out of my wide receiver. But that being said, the one thing that you said that kind of like sparked things for me, when you said, hey, if I have Amon-Ra, or if I'm looking at Amon-Ra, I might be able to give Marvin Harrison in a first to get an Amon-Ra. And I think that might be a move I would be willing to make on the opposite side of things. Like, I might be willing to take that chance and that hope, because I'm a little bit insulated with the pick. Now, there's a very real possibility that Marvin Harrison does not become a top 6 dynasty wide receiver. But the skill set is still there. And so for me, like, if that is a deal that is on the table, maybe it's not for everybody, but that's on the table 25% of the time. Like, that's the kind of move I think I would be open to making. Now, granted, it depends on what kind of first is it? Where is it at in the draft? What year is it? Like, all of those things play into it. Where is my team at specifically? Like, it's really hard to just say, yes, unilaterally, I will always make this exact move no matter what. Like, it does vary, but that is the kind of move that I would be open to making. But on the flip side, yeah, if somebody is still a huge believer, even bigger than me, like, every player has a price. Every player has a price. And so, like, I just gushed over Quinshon Judkins a little bit ago. Quinshon easily has a price for me. Like, if the right team comes along, whatever, like, every player has a price. So it's a long way of saying that I think I am still overall buying, which does scare me.
That had a question mark at the end of it, Garrett.
It did kind of feel like my voice went up a little bit there.
Like I'm buying, right? Like I should be buying, maybe. I don't know.
It's terrifying. I think that's the hard part. I believe overall that the skill set is still there. The player is still there. I hate this offense. I think that is a part of it too.
That's something that I wanted to touch on. I've been sitting here waiting to say it because I think that Drew Petzing is not utilizing Marvin Harrison to the best of his abilities. It does feel like maybe Petzing was a guy who kind of got lucky in the offseason where you looked like you might have been on the chopping block, buddy, and it didn't really happen for you. Yeah. But now a year two where the offense kind of looks stagnant again. Kyler Murray looks a little bit mediocre again. Marvin looks mediocre again. Like it feels like Petzing's leash is going to be, real short going in the back half of the season. And he might be a guy who's out of here, which if you want to believe in Marvin Harrison, does that help him, down the line where they bring in a new guy? It absolutely could. So I definitely hear both sides of the argument. When I said the late first and Marv, I'm thinking like a late 26, and like I would happily do that to go into Amon-Ra. But the fact that we had two people here, that are willing to take one side of the fence, you were willing to take the other side, and I'm sitting here willing to take Amon-Ra. That absolutely tells you guys at home you're going to be able to have opportunities like that where you can make the moves. I think one thing that was a little bit more interesting too is you and I had a conversation a little while back. I want to say it was on a video that we did here for the channel, but we were talking about Rome Odunze, and like I think you and I both said we would rather have Rome Odunze moving forward than Marvin Harrison. And I have to ask you too, like I'm going to throw you two more names, kind of young guys as well. Are you the same way here with Egbuka? Would you rather take Egbuka over Marvin moving forward?
So I have a Emeka Egbuka at wide receiver 12, and I have Marvin Harrison at 15. So I would rather Emeka Egbuka.
And you would rather take T-Mac, right?
And I have T-Mac at 13, although both of those guys, it sounds like are about to bump up ahead of Nico Collins. So I think I'm taking both of those guys. And look, this is on raw skill set. That sounds silly, but they've already shown just as much, if not more, as rookies than we're seeing in year two out of Marvin Harrison Jr. So yeah, I'm taking both of those guys. So it's real tough. Like, another guy that's struggling, I'm like, well, Ladd McConkey or Marvin Harrison, like who would I rather have there? I'm not the biggest Brian Thomas guy, but he's another guy struggling, like Thomas or Marvin Harrison. Like he finds himself kind of an interesting range of players from the same class that are all kind of leaving us with a little bit of a bad taste in our mouth right now. So it is kind of an interesting group because I literally have those guys 14, 15, 16. Like that's what I have.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I'm with you though. I think if somebody offered me today, they said, hey, you want Tetarioa McMillan and you give me Marvin, I think I'm selling you my Marvin and just taking T-Mac and moving on.
Seems crazy, but I think that's the point we're at. Hey, Nerd Herd, want to tell you about a show that we've been doing live on YouTube where we go over your teams and we talk about how to fix your broken roster. It's called Roster Rescue. We do it live every single Monday at noon Eastern time. And if you want to get a part of that, just head to our Dynasty Nerds homepage, go under the store tab, and you'll find Roster Rescue right there. Perfect opportunity to get your rosters in shape before the season or even in the middle of the season to make sure that you can win a championship. All right, so that wraps up Marvin Harrison. Let's get to our final segment here. And I want to talk about tight ends because right now I'm a little worried that there might be a bit of a crisis at tight end. Now, things changed a little bit last night, but going into last night, we did not have a single player at tight end averaging above 14 points per game. Everyone was 13 or below. Now, Jake Ferguson changed that last night, had another very, very good game. So we do have a little bit better of a situation there, but we still only have 7 guys above 12 points per game. And all of those but one are below 13.5. So we're not getting very high-end production out of these guys. And, 13.4 for Trey McBride, lower than we want. But then another guy, Brock Bowers, only averaging 10.9 right now. Like, it's only week 4. But by week 4, things are starting to be more than just coincidence. They're starting to become trends by 4 weeks into the season. And right now, especially with the injury to George Kittle, there is not currently a dominant tight end. There's a bunch of guys that are fine, but there is not a dominant tight end right now. Andrew, overall for you, are you worried about the tight end position overall? And if so or not, either way, what are you actively doing about it? Is it one of those things where you just kind of have to close your eyes, cross your fingers, and hope days get better? Or are there active moves that you're making to prepare for maybe we're just in a range right now where tight end is just not going to give us what we hoped?
Yeah. I just think at this point in time, man, like we're acting shocked that tight ends are acting like tight ends. Like, this is what they have done for so long, man. And I hate, to bring it up, but I've been one of the people in the offseason that very softly, now I was not like very pro trade Brock Bowers, but I was like, I might be floating around, maybe moving off of him just a little bit, just to see the down tier. What can you get? Because some of the prices that you could have got this offseason were astronomical for Brock Bowers. So I would say right now, I'm not super worried about the position because I'm just viewing it for what it is. I think we have 3 young, very intriguing tight end options in Brock Bowers and Trey McBride and Tyler Warren. And those are the guys that I'm excited about. If I'm a contender, I'm still interested in Kittle at the right price. He's a player that in the offseason I was buying at a late, contending first round pick price in tight end premium formats. And I still, obviously you don't like that he's missing time to the injury, but I still think that those prices were accurate. And everybody else, folks, I'm good playing the lottery. I'm good tearing down and seeing who's available. If it's Hawkinson, I can tear him down to a guy like Njoku and just take the points that I can get. That's fine. If it's a guy like Kraft that's, blowing up at the moment where people are excited about him and I can tear him down to somebody else, I'm for it. And so I'm kind of operating as if the tight end position has those 3 young cornerstone tight ends and everybody else is fair game. I'd rather just take my extra added draft capital on top of a tear down and go find somebody else and play the matchups at the position with a couple of guys in the back pocket.
Yeah, I think overall I am in the same boat. I'm still keeping an eye. If this happens for another week or two, I might be willing to pay up because that pay up is a much cheaper price than it was. I might be willing to now try to get in here at Brock Bowers because you're right. The price that he was going for in the offseason was crazy and somewhat deservingly so if you assumed that what he did in his rookie season was going to continue to trend in a positive direction where he goes from, a 15 points per game and now we're starting to see 16, 17, 18. Like, yeah, he deserves those kind of prices if that's the direction he's going. But he went the complete opposite direction last year, averaging well over 15 points per game. This season, it's only through 4 weeks. We're not even at 11 points, only one double-digit game so far, and that was in week 1. So it's hard to know that, is this a, emergence of Ashton Genty thing? Is this a Geno Smith thing? Is this a Pete Carroll thing? Is it like, what is it exactly? Or is it just, man, we hit a weird bump in the road? If he had in week 6, 7, 8, 9, 15, 8.8, 9.8, 9.6, we might not think anything of it. It might not be a big deal. But when it happens the first 4 weeks of the season, that's when you're asking yourself, is this a trend or is this just a blip? And that's where it gets really, really hard at the beginning of the year. So he might be somebody, if we have another week or two of lackluster production, that might be a volume entry point that I would be interested in. But otherwise, I'm in the same boat. I would rather, and some of these guys were guys that I was tearing down to. Tucker Kraft in the offseason, I was tearing down to. I put Hunter Henry in my top 12 this year. So I was like, look, I think the volume's going to be really solid there, and I think he's actually going to be a really legitimate asset. So I'm willing to buy him on the cheap. David Njoku is another guy. Obviously, that one hasn't worked out quite as well as I had hoped. But look, I do think overall, right now, we might get the dominant tight end again. We might have McBride or Warren or Brock Bowers become that again, and it wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, I don't know that we're getting Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, the 17, 18, 19 points per game. I don't know that we're going to be getting it out of these guys right now. It might be more of the 14.5 to 16, which is still great, but not special. And I think that's where we might be right now. Any other thoughts on this before we wrap up, Andrew?
No, I mean, we'll see what happens, man. Like you said, at this point, you kind of see trends, but it is still early too. So, we still have a little bit to go. And the thing about the tight end position is you can have 2 good weeks back to back, and all of a sudden you're tight end 3 on the year. Like, that's just what can happen every once in a while. So we'll see what happens here, man.
All right. Well, that wraps things up for tonight's show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to hang with us for tomorrow's flagship Dynasty Nerds podcast. Andrew and I will be back at it, and we're going to be talking about maybe some contender buys, some guys that we might be looking at for those veteran teams that are looking to win a ship. And we're going to be talking about the quarterback position as well. Similar discussion, but on the opposite side of things that we had with the tight end. So appreciate you guys. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
See you.